Hello and welcome to Stupid Ancient History with Midgley
and Taylor and our expert, non-expert and special guest James, Lord High Commander of the Science Cupboard, first of his name and knower of nothing.
Hello.
As always, we're wearing togas, it's raining outside, and today we're going to look at what happens when Superbus goes to war. Previously on Stupid Ancient History, we've been looking at the varying fortunes of the Tarquin kings.
Are the Etruscan kings?
Did they ever just pick a name?
No.
You should know that by now, James.
Just need to get rid of the kings then.
Yeah, patience. And how, after a successful reign and a series of reforms, Servius' rule is cut short by a bloody and brutal coup.
Meaning he was murdered by his son-in-law and daughter-in-law and smeared all over the road.
I am imagining like jam.
Yes. I wonder how they got it up afterwards.
A mop. And that this coup led to the often tyrannical rule of Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, the arrogant and proud.
Well, that is one way to describe him, definitely.
Did they call him that to his face?
No. Otherwise they'd be known as the dead.
They would also be jam.
Yeah. Superbus, who then sets about ruling Rome by force and fear, ending the census, murdering opponents, and taking other people's money.
We told you it was a wrong one, didn't we? We were not off.
I'm kind of on board for the end of the census.
Oh. But despite his tyranny, he did develop Rome by building a grand temple of Jupiter, the Cloaca Maxima, and extending the Circus Maximus.
But he still managed to use the building projects to make everyone's lives a misery. So really, was it a good thing?
And he named the temple after himself.
Yeah.
Egotistical.
Now, whilst from the ancient sources it certainly seems Superbus was leaning, should we say, heavily towards the tyranny side of things.
I think that's a reasonable accusation.
Yeah. So outside of his rule in Rome, though, he's portrayed, shall we say, a little bit more favourably.
How? By who? Have they not been paying attention?
We only said a little, James. Not
Right,
a lot.
okay.
Yeah,
Not a
so,
lot.
for example...
Livy says, even though he was unfair in peacetime, the king was not a bad commander in war. In this skill, he might have been as good as the earlier kings, except for his bad behaviour in other areas. He was the first to make war with the Volsci, which lasted more than 200 years after his age. I don't think that's good. If he starts a war that lasts for 200 years, I think that is pretty poor.
Well, I've got to ask the question then. If he was awful in peacetime and a good battle commander, how much of his rule was peace and how much was war?
We don't know.
Right, okay.
But yeah, so I mean, it's not exactly the greatest success ever, is it? If you start a war that you can't finish, and you can't finish it so much 2 centuries later.
200 years.
But
That's
you know,
ridiculous.
he's still making the effort.
To start wars.
Well,
So, although on balance, aside from this hiccup, I think it's
200-year hiccup.
He does manage to extend Rome's territory by creating 2 new colonies or settlements.
Okay.
It's good, but
Yeah.
he's not done yet.
Why
No.
would he be? What else has he done?
Well, it says, then he started another war which was trickier than he had hoped.
The 200-year war's barely begun, and he started another one.
Which is trickier.
Against the neighbouring city of
Gabby.
Gabi. He failed to overpower them with force, and when he could not besiege them because they forced him back to the city walls, he resorted to the not very Roman skills of fraud and trickery.
I mean, they sound like very Roman skills.
Not skills they like to talk about.
So, what were these not very Roman... You can't hear my quote marks, unfortunately. What were these very not Roman skills? What do you say? Trickery and fraud?
Yeah, well, the idea of it not being a very Roman thing to do is another jab at Superbus. So if we're to put someone like Romulus or Tullus in the situation, then no doubt they would have won the war with one hand tied behind the back. So it's having a go.
Yeah,
Right.
You can't win like a real man.
So you've got to do something else. But
Yeah.
Is that because he's a bit rubbish, or is it because he started more than one war?
Or is it
I've not
because
seen
he's
the
clever?
difference there. That both seems pretty rubbish. So anyway, Superbus not wanting to give up and unable to win by conventional means, he hatches a cunning plan.
No, it's not
So-
really very cunning, is it?
Livy says he arranged for his son, Sextus, the youngest of three, to run away to Gabii as part of the plan. Sextus told them that his father was horribly cruel to him and that he had now turned the arrogance he had shown to others onto his own family and was also annoyed because he had too many children. I mean, I think that's understandable. Can you
Right.
imagine, Kaya? He just told us that he's sick as hell because he's got 6 and he just can't cope. It's just too many.
So Sextus is at the sixth. You said third son,
Third
is
son.
but is that the sixth child all over?
We assume so.
Right. Okay.
Livy doesn't
he's-
tell us.
So he sent him off as kind of a Trojan horse sort of thing.
Yeah, an inside man, very much so. So Sextus flees, runs off to the Gabii with all these tales of how his dad is mean and he's off his head and now he's turning on his own family, of which there are too many of them.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a moment of home truths, really. So it seems that either Superbus or at least his son know what people think of him. So they're using his negative reputation
Yeah.
kind of in their
So
favour.
he's
I
aware
suppose.
he's not liked.
I think that would be pretty obvious.
Right, okay.
There's going to be, shall we say, carvings on things. So anyway, the whole idea is to plant Sextus firmly in the enemy camp.
Did they not think it was this a bit sus? Did it work?
Well, Livy says the Gabii received him kindly. They said it was not surprising that Tarquinius had at last turned his anger onto his children, as he had done on both citizens and allies, and he would turn his savagery on himself if there was no one else. They were grateful for his arrival because they thought that with his help, in a short time, the war would be transferred from the gates of Gabii to under the walls of Rome. So they basically
So they
think
fell
he's
for
gonna
it. They fell
help
for it.
them
Right. Okay.
with-
Hook, Klein,
Wait,
and
this-
Dumbass.
I know I used it as a bit of a reference. This is after the Trojan horse, isn't it? So
Yeah,
they-
this is about 700-800 years after.
Yeah, so they familiar with the concept.
He didn't go dressed as a horse, though.
That's
No, I went dressed as a cow. I didn't realise.
Disclaimer, he did not.
so Sextus has run off to the Gabii.
Yep,
They've bizarrely welcomed him with open arms.
yep.
Do they keep an eye on him at least? please tell me they're not that stupid.
Oh, I want to tell you that they're not that stupid. But,
I mean,
it let's just put it this way. It seems Sextus is as sneaky as his dad.
Right. Okay.
And so the apple didn't fall far from the tree, you could say with this one.
Okay.
So he starts working his way into the inner circle of the Gabii with the intention of getting them to attack Rome.
Right. Okay.
So he's playing his game. He's,
Yeah.
on the long con.
Yeah, so Livy says Sextus was then invited to take part in the state meetings. In most things, he agreed with the older residents of Gabii, who were more knowledgeable than he was, but repeatedly he said they should go to war with Rome, because he said he knew more about that because he knew the strengths of both peoples and knew how much the Roman people hated their arrogant king, whose children couldn't even put up with him. Nice.
So he's egging them on
Yeah.
to go to war to Rome. So they are at war at this point.
Yeah.
But he's wanting to launch like a full campaign.
Full attack, yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is a trap, presumably.
No.
Oh. Okay.
No, again, it's a bit even more of a long con than that. And Sextus is deliberately targeting the parts of Rome that he knows are the weakest to make himself seem more awesome.
Right.
Like
okay.
he can do no wrong.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
Livy says he would go on stealing expeditions with the boldest young men. Their trust in him grew because of all these words and actions, all of which were designed to trick them, and they chose him to be their leader in war.
So not just for that group, for the whole of Gabii.
Yep.
This is insane. So he's getting away with it then.
Yep.
They trust him.
They do, but Livy
Next
says,
thing, the common people did not know what was going on, but when there were small conflicts between Rome and Gabii, in which Gabii usually won, all of the Gabii, from the highest to the lowest, believed that Sextus Tarquinius had been sent to them as a leader, as a gift from the gods.
So they've really
they've
fallen
really
for
gone
this.
for it.
Massively.
I mean, the other thing we should point out as well, from the Roman side, he's now effectively killing his own people.
Yes. So
So-
this is very un-Roman, isn't it?
This is very un-Roman, but also we should point out that maybe the Gabii are a bit too trusting.
A little bit. I mean, it sounds like someone's going to wipe him out at some point.
Probably themselves. So, despite not ending the war, if nothing else, he's kind of making it go on a bit longer.
Yeah.
Things are going swimmingly for Sextus.
Okay.
So he's now really powerful, with the Gabi almost as powerful as Tarquinius is back in Rome, but less hated.
Less hated,
So
yeah.
is he, like, it looks like at this point he's trying to mount a counter-campaign against his dad
Yeah.
Right, okay. So,
and get rid of him.
is this the plan? I don't really understand, like, what's the end game? Because he seems to be doing a really good job of actually being in opposition to his dad.
Yeah, but it's not quite.
Right, okay.
So Livy goes on.
When he thought that he had enough power to do anything, he sent one of his men to Rome to ask his father if there was anything that he wanted him to do, as the gods had made it so that he was the one who could now do anything at Gabai. Sorry.
So he's just... So it's about the fact that at war, he sent someone off to his dad to go, Daddy, can I do anything for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did people know about this? This message, you keep this very quiet?
Well, I mean,
or-
you'd think, it would be foolish to think that the Gabi wouldn't know that Sextus had sent a messenger to Rome.
Yeah.
Actually, no, to be fair, thinking back on it,
They
they probably just thought, oh,
Yeah, he's great. That'd be a reason for that. I won't even ask why.
no, it's fine. Well,
Just keeping
it's
in
not
touch
like
with his dad. He's
not
just
like
a
there's
nice
some-
son.
But he was-
nefarious plot
But
in
he's
hand.
gotten into this position by saying how awful his dad is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but,
But-
you still love your parents, don't you? Maybe that's what they're thinking, you know.
Not if you know what I whinge my mum and dad, but I don't go and start a war against them.
and then ask them what they want for Christmas.
Yeah, that'd be a bit sus.
It's a bit confusing, isn't it? Anyway, but the messenger goes off, scuttles off to Rome, and when he gets there, he's brought before Superbus, and Superbus doesn't really give him a straight answer.
No.
Mm.
So Livy says the king walked in his private garden as if he was thinking, with his son's messenger following him. As he was walking there in silence, it is said that he knocked the heads off the tallest poppies with his stick. The messenger got tired of waiting and asking for a reply, and with his job unfinished, he went back to Gabi and reported what he had said and seen, that either because of anger or hatred or the arrogance in his character, Tarquinius had not said a word.
Right, okay, so he just hit some flowers.
Yeah.
That's all he did.
That's it. Bit
Passive
rude.
aggressive.
Bit rubbish.
And a big waste of everyone's time.
Yeah. I'm hoping / expecting there to be more than just nothing happened.
We get into it, James, don't worry.
Okay.
So, whilst the other Gabi are busy slagging off the arrogance of Superbus and his flower-beating escapades, Sextus goes to work. See, the not message is actually a pre-planned secret code.
For Sextus to go about bumping off the Gabi leaders.
Okay, so what if it was what if this messenger didn't know what a poppy was? What if he's like, oh, an orchid? Okay.
It's like, oh no, it's all cancelled.
Yeah.
I think the idea was just flowers.
Okay.
So anyway, because he's wormed himself into such a position of power, it seems that for Sextus at least, this bit is quite easy. Or, as Livy says,
He killed the leaders of the citizens either in trials in front of the people or because they were unpopular, so it provided an excuse. Many were killed openly, but those that could not be convicted of anything were murdered in secret.
I didn't think this was a bit weird either.
where's Brian gone?
Yeah.
All of the nobles have disappeared.
Just like that. So yeah, so Sextus is able to do what his dad did in Rome. The way Livy writes it is literally word for word. It's almost like he copied and pasted. Superbus did this. I'll just change the name.
No one got jammed, did they?
No one got checked. Well, not that we know of. So yeah, he's basically going around doing what his dad did in Rome after the death of Servius. It's straight out of his playbook. Nice father-son bonding moment. So, Daddy, how do I murder important senators?
In secret.
In secret.
In front of everyone, obviously. That's how you do it.
So yeah, and he makes himself pretty much the sole ruler of the Gabi.
Yeah, and just to make sure that no one argues, he divided the dead leaders' wealth amongst the people, so they were happy.
Right, so just get him on
It's
side.
like,
Yeah.
oh, he's dead. Yes,
Yes.
he's dead!
I'm rich.
He was dead. I don't care. Look at my money. And so, with this lack of opposition, Sextus simply surrenders the Gabii to Rome, or as Livy puts it,
The Gabii were completely unable to help themselves or to get help from outside, so the people of were handed over into the hands of the Roman king without a fight.
there you go.
Right. Did no one question this at this point?
Oh, I
Yeah.
see what you did there.
Okay, great. they deserve this.
The very non-Roman traits
So-
of
so-
trickery and deceit.
If he could sort this out like that, could he not? If he's got 2 more sons, could one of them not go to the what were they called?
The Volsci.
The Volsci, just like
Maybe they were slightly smarter.
can't be much dumber. So you said, Taylor, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
It's a bit of a rotten apple.
It's a
as well.
rotten apple, and it's very close to the rotten tree. So Sextus is a wrong un,
Yeah.
basically. So if it's all panned out like this, is there more to his son? Did he or did he just go, all right, Dad, I've just won you a kingdom. I'm willing you to go back and sit down and be a good boy.
Well, we're not at the point of having fathers killed and smeared across Rome yet.
Well,
Unfortunately.
what do you mean yet? That's already happened.
You've got to build up to these kind of things. But with all this underhand trickery, obviously, the question of who should rule next does start to emerge in the Romans' mind.
Yeah, so he's a bit of a snake in the grass, clearly. And
He's not beyond murdering people to get
well,
what he
yeah,
wants.
and Superbus at no point thought, I am creating a younger me here.
And it's quite interesting that you say snake, because actually it's a snake that starts our next bit of the story, James. Of course.
Obviously.
So,
It's been a while since animals have been involved in these things.
Superbus is busy setting up new colonies and settlements and pretending his kid isn't a murderer. And there's a terrible omen in the palace.
Oh, God.
A snake! A snake slithers out of a wooden column in the palace.
Okay. I mean, that just seems like they need to put some snake poison out.
Maybe.
I'm going to assume to them that's not a good thing.
Yeah,
No.
well, a lot of people start running away.
Which is kind of understandable if you saw a random snake. I think I would
Yeah.
do that as well.
It's a random snake popping out of your bathroom.
We don't have snakes in Italy.
Apparently so, especially in wooden columns. Maybe this is why it's such a bad omen. What the hell is that legless lizard and what is it doing here? But Superbus seems more worried about the unusual event and what it means rather than, bloody hell, there's a snake there.
Yeah, it's an omen.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, he's so worried about it that rather than consulting the Roman seers about it, he decided to consult the oracle at Delphi in Greece.
Which is a bit of a big deal.
It's a bit of a trek, isn't it?
It is, especially at this time. But yeah, the Delphic oracle, the Pythian priestesses, most famous oracles.
Yeah.
If you want a job done well,
You go to them.
you go to
He just
them.
wants a holiday.
Yeah.
So they're off on a road trip.
Yep.
Sounds fun.
Yeah,
It's going to go well.
definitely.
Always does. So,
I know they have snakes in Greece.
yes. Well, now they're getting some more.
Yeah.
So, Superbus decides the only people he can trust with such an important task are his other 2 sons, Titus and Arruns.
Wait, so one, he's not going himself.
No.
And he's not sending Sextus.
No.
So you were getting put enough to win a what got
A war.
a war. What was
The other 2 sons.
What are they called? People.
The Gabii.
People. The Gabii. Yeah.
The
So
dumb
he's,
ones.
so he's important enough to like win over the Gabii state or whatever they call it, but
Yeah.
not enough to go to Greece.
Well, he's still murdering them. He's
Yeah.
still busy finishing off.
Ah, right. Okay.
There's a
Not
few
quite
of them.
done yet.
Oh, okay.
So they duly set off over what Livy calls unknown lands and seas to Greece.
People who founded Rome came from Greece.
Yeah.
They're very well known land and seas.
They just lost the map. Yeah, unknown lands and seas, but it seems not to the Greeks, who'd been there for a few hundred years already. But with them, they take another person, a guy called Lucius Junius Brutus.
Who's that?
Livy?
Livy says he was the son of Tarquinia, the king's sister, and was far more intelligent than he pretended to be.
Okay.
teach some kids like that. When he when he heard about that the leading citizens had been killed by his uncle, including Tarquinius' own brother, he decided not to show anything in his character that the king could be afraid of, or in his fortunes that the king could envy. So he deliberately made an act of being stupid and let his property and himself to be controlled by the king. He did not even mind the name Brutus, the brute.
Right, okay.
He's playing dumb, so no one messes with him.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the two brothers and their presumed idiot friend go off to Delphi to speak to the oracle.
Fair enough.
It's
going to go well.
Always. And when they get there, the oracle tells them,
Young men, he...
You got to warn me if you're going to do that.
do it again.
Young men, he who first brings a kiss to his mother will have the greatest power in the room.
Thank you for that.
So the brothers, being their father's sons, swear to keep the oracle secret and definitely not tell Sextus.
Okay.
Because they don't want him sharing any power bequeathed to them by that spectacular.
That was stunning.
And then they drew straws to see who would be the first to kiss their mum.
I mean, obviously you're expecting to honour that deal.
I'd love to be able
Well,
to give
yeah.
my mum a kiss.
Well,
Not
look,
because of me,
I
anyway.
drew the shortest straw. That's nice. I drew the biggest knife.
Yeah. So, I really hope this is just a peck on the cheek, mum.
Yeah, it's not that kind of deal.
How badly do you want power?
Oh,
Not
no.
that badly.
Oh. What does the oracle think of that?
Yummy!
So the two brothers are keeping it quiet from Sextus.
Yep.
What's going on? Have they just forgotten that Brutus is with him, or they just not care?
No, they just thought he was too stupid to even know what was going on. So
He must be playing this part very
He's
well.
good. He's good. And the reality is actually quite different. Because Brutus is clearly a lot smarter than he's letting on.
he's certainly cleverer than them two anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And he interprets the oracle's words differently. So,
He thinks it says he pretended to slip and fell to the ground and kissed it as he realised that the earth is everyone's mother.
Right, so first person to kiss the earth
Yeah.
gets the
bit
power.
hippie, but
It's very hippie.
yeah. So technically, I mean, if he was right, which it turns out he is, then he would be the next ruler of Rome.
It'd be worth a try anyway.
But he's not telling anyone yet.
No, so the merry band of three travelled back over the unknown lands and seas back to Rome.
Even if they were unknown, they would know them now.
Well, yeah.
These are not unknown lands.
Which
and
way are we
seas.
going? I don't know. Which way? No, we just don't. It's
We just
unknown.
don't know. Let's hope we eventually end
It's
back
like,
up
oh,
at
we've
Rome.
opened the map and it's just blank.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
So they've gone over the well-known lands and seas.
The well-known unknown lands and seas.
Yeah, and they're back at Rome.
Yep.
What happens when they're back at Rome?
Well,
They went back to Rome where a war against the Rutuli was being prepared urgently.
Another one.
Another war! Because two's not enough, James.
Well,
Never enough.
clearly two is enough. One's not enough because he finished off the
no, they're still at it.
You've got three now.
Well, as the
Jesus
Gabby are winding up,
Do they just want one for each brother? Is that what it is? They
maybe.
just want a war each.
Yeah. Yet another war.
Well, how are they just starting with all the small neighbouring
Yeah.
states and stuff?
That takes 200 years to fight.
Jesus Christ! I'm just thinking how big is Rome's army that it can fight three separate wars.
Not big enough. So after all that, I mean, we've got one of the key issues we need to look at.
Which is he better at war than he is at home?
Yeah,
How do you know the difference? He's constantly at
Well,
war.
that is
and he's
true,
constantly
James.
at home though.
Well, he's not left, but
No.
Well, yeah, he's at war a lot and seems to be for sometimes not really much of an apparent reason. However, he does do some positive things, not necessarily on the battlefield, but more at home. So he does expand kind of Roman influence. He sets up new settlements, and he did defeat the Gabii, even though it was a bit of an underhand way of doing it.
Not very Roman.
Yeah,
way
so
of doing
that's
it.
the flip side of the argument, isn't it? That he did it, but not in an honourable way, which
Yeah.
is, to the Romans, is probably worse than just packing it in.
But again, like, considering how he became king,
Yeah, it's a low bar
did
to
he
start
expect
with.
him to do anything else?
No, probably not. Again, he also started a war that lasted 200 years.
Which is ridiculous.
It's not a great military success, is it?
Do
No,
we know
it's not.
anything about much about that war? Like, was it kind of a World War One? It'll be over by Christmas. Oh, this will take 10
It'll be over
minutes.
by
Yeah.
the next
It'll be
century.
over by-
200 years. Like,
Obviously, it's not 200 years of continual non-stop
but-
fighting. It's years of on-off conflict. But even still, surely after 100 years, you get bored and just go, look, the guy who started this war, moron. Should we just call it quits?
And also dust, because he's that dead.
yeah.
Do you want him? Here's the dusty ashes. Take him back.
Like, was this a particularly powerful? Like, they just
No,
couldn't,
they
couldn't
were just-
crack it.
They were just, wedged in firmly and not having it. But also, I mean, it's not just the wars that's going on. We've got this other potentially bigger issue for Rome, which is the sons. AKA the future kings.
Yeah.
I mean, none of them were good.
Well, so
No.
we've obviously heard most about Sextus, but
Yep.
the other ones, I've forgotten their names. Aaron and
Titus and Aaron's.
Aaron's.
Well,
Titus
one
and
of them just comes across as being really sneaky and underhand and scheming,
Murdery.
manipulative, murdery, and the other two just seem a bit thick.
But they're also sneaky as well.
And a bit
They're
dim.
conspiring for who's going to be the next king.
Yeah, so it's
So,
I mean,
yeah.
that as much as you weren't a fan of the interregnum, James, I mean, that is as dead as the Gabby now.
Yeah.
We're looking at bang on hereditary rule. If you're one of these Roman citizens and you're looking at these three going, who's going to be the next Roman king?
Well,
It's like playing Snog, Marry, Avoid with Hitler, Mussolini and Chairman Mao.
I mean, I assume it wasn't good, but Sextus, all his stuff was public, out in the open. The other two, other than being a bit sneaky in Greece, what was their like?
Sneaky in Greece.
Yeah, but what was their like? What was the perception of them?
Well, the sons of...
I didn't imagine it'd be good.
No,
but-
not good. I mean, the point is, no one's really looking like a good alternative.
Yeah,
And it's not looking like they'll
they're
let...
certainly not stately. They're not.
No. And it's not looking like they'll let anyone else throw the hat in the ring to be king. So the Romans are looking at these three going, oh,
But
really?
like hereditary monarchies, would this be the first time it's happened for them?
Yeah,
You've had like grandchildren. But,
pretty much. Yeah, so we've had interregnum, chunky interregnum,
Yeah.
sort of weekend at Bernie's interregnum with a dead king, but we won't mention that. And then Jam Man.
Jam man.
So yeah, the legitimacy of Roman kings coming to power is
Gone.
pretty far down that hill. So yeah, the Romans are basically looking at these three going, oh, another 80 years of tyranny then.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really not looking good for the prospect of the idea of monarchy.
no, it's pretty much dead in the water, I would say.
Yeah. So there you have it, our little overview of when Superbus goes to war. Thank you for listening. We hope this has been helpful. As always, leave us a comment below. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
And goodbye from the Oracle.